Welcome to the podcast, Ashok. How are you doing?
Very good. I'm glad to be here with you, Vipin.
Lovely. I just was going through your LinkedIn before we start this podcast. Of course, we've spoken in the past, but while getting through your LinkedIn in depth, I figured how diverse your experience has been. Government, fast food, medicine, healthcare, steel. So just to unpack this whole thing, why don't you give us a brief of your journey, right? How did this all started after your, I believe, your master's in the States? Just tell us about the whole journey till we reach Indonesia. Your second stint in it.
My second stint.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. It has been very diverse. And my kids have sometimes said that when they've shown my profile to their friends, they have wondered whether it was a real profile or a fake one, because there have been so many changes in so many industries. But it's been tremendous. So you're right. I actually grew up in various parts of the world. My father was a diplomat. So I grew up in Switzerland, in the US, high school in India, then back to the US for my undergrad and grad school. Started as a consultant with Pricewaterhouse in Los Angeles, and then moved to the government of India. And I was with the government for about 12, 13 years. I was posted as a diplomat abroad as well. I was a consul in New York. Then came back to India and was there at a very interesting time. I was there in New York when the dot-com bubble burst and when 9/11 happened.
Wow.
So I saw two shocks to the economic system that took place just around the year 2000 and 2001. And I'd done an MBA from the University of Virginia. I had an idea that my first love was business, but being in the civil services has its own advantages, of course. And so I had joined that. But when I saw those two shocks to the system, I thought, where is going to be the future of the world now? The Dow was at 7,700 at that time. I don't think there was going to be any investment in the US in the early 2000s due to the shocks to the system. Europe was also sort of at an average pace. Africa has had its own trouble with investment. So I decided that, well, if there is going to be a time when capital flows into Asia, it's going to be that. And I felt it is going to be the decade of investment into Asia. And that's precisely what actually happened. We saw the growth of China, India, and all of the Asian tigers also just go forth and multiply right after that.
Sure.
So that was the time when I decided that, all right, let me make the move outside of a secure government job and get into the private sector.
Let's talk about both these pieces. First is getting into the government service. You spoke about how there are positives to it. But what prompted you in the first place? You were with PwC. I understand that there was uncertainty back there in the States at that point. But was that the only reason that prompted you towards government services, or was it something else? Was it having a diplomat as a father? What was it?
Well, I come from a family of bureaucrats.
Sure.
So I think the big desire of my father was that his son also joins the service and continues the tradition. So I think the idea was that, all right, well, why don't you, it was a step-by-step process, which I think my family executed wonderfully at that time. Well, why don't you just sit for the exams and see what happened? And then I qualified. And once I qualified, then the thought was that, look at how wonderful your life can be. Just look at how our career has been. My father rose to be a secretary in the government, so got to the highest levels of government, and said, well, this can also be your future if you so wish. So one weighed the pros and cons at that time. And I was there in the US in the early 90s, which was actually a good time.
Yeah.
And it was a good time to be in the US. It was very good. So the choice was a difficult one.
Yeah.
And then you sort of weigh the pros and cons and say, all right, I will make that move and I will let go of what was known as the American dream.
Sure.
And as karma, kismat, whatever, the government chose to send me back to the US as a diplomat. So I guess there was poetic justice at the end, and I ended up as a consul in New York, which was the city where I grew up.
Sure.
And my children played in the same park where I played as a child 30 years later.
Full circle.
Full circle. So that way it's been very rewarding. And what government gives you is something that is simply not available in the private sector. which is a perspective that is on a national scale. And what that allows you to really understand is what is the impact of your work that you're doing, not just for yourself or your office or your organization, but for the people at large, for the country at large.
Sure.
And that's the exposure that you get. You get to think at a level that is national and international. So that experience was absolutely unique. And that set me up for being into senior management when I got into the private sector.
You served for 13 years.
Yes.
How was it transitioning into corporate after that? I mean, I'm sure it would not have been really smooth, right? How was the whole transition for you?
Well, I moved to Mittal Steel in Indonesia after that. So I had the opportunity of meeting Mr. Lakshmi Mittal, and he actually asked me, he says, well, Ashok, you're well educated, good family, good background, but you don't know anything about steel, and you've been out of business for, 13 years. You were a consultant earlier, very good, but why should I hire you? And I basically told him, I said, you have a lot of people who wish to be your employees, but how many can you trust? And I'm able to provide that trust to you because the government has provided that trust in me. So that started me off on that journey to transition to the private sector. But then I found myself one day in Surabaya, standing in literally a junkyard, looking at scrap metal that was going to go into my electric arc furnace. And it was raining, I was wet, and I was thinking just 1 month ago, I was in my office and I was writing a note that was going to go to the senior officers of the government. There was somebody offering me tea, and here I am standing in a scrapyard, and my God, what have I done? So it was certainly a big shock to the system. And you come to a new country, you don't know the language, you don't know business. You're used to being at a certain level in the government, and suddenly everything is new. So it took a lot of time and adjustment. But I think once you jump in with both feet, you leave yourself no choice.
True.
And that's when the old brain that you have trained in business school and looked at as a consultant, that's where it all starts working again. So I started as VP of sales and was able to make a very significant change in the sales of the company in 6 months, and got promoted to chief operating officer in 8 months. So that just started me off. And I truly think if you commit yourself, you don't give yourself a choice, you go into it with both feet and full commitment, and you can do it.
This was which year? The Mittal Steel?
I joined in 2005.
So that was your first Indonesia stint?
Yeah.
Okay. And what happens after that?
So I was here till August of 2007. And during that time, I was approached by Yumm Brands. Yumm is the owner of Pizza Hut, KFC, and Taco Bell. And they said, we'd like you to join our senior management. There'd been a big change at Yumm in India, and they wanted some senior management on their leadership team. And honestly, I'd never heard of Yumm before. I knew the brands, but I didn't know the mothership. But once I learned about the company and I saw the values that it stood for, and it had a very clear, defined set of values of what they expect in a professional, how they conduct business, how they work together. That truly resonated with what I wanted to do as an individual, as a professional. That was really aspirational for me. And secondly, the offer they made me was to be the general manager and country head of Taco Bell and to bring that brand into India for the very first time.
Wow.
So that's an opportunity that is very rare, to get an opportunity to bring a multinational brand into one of the largest markets in the world and establish it from scratch.
Again, no background of fast food whatsoever with you.
None at all, except being a consumer my whole life.
It seems like this is a recurring theme in your career. We'll get to that as well. Okay, so Yumm Brands, and this is your first corporate stint in India?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
So,
please.
Yeah, came back to India in 2007 and joined Yumm as part of the leadership team. So I was on of course, the LT, the leadership team of Yumm, which also included both brands, Pizza Hut and KFC. So as the leadership team, the idea was really to make these brands iconic in the country.
Sure.
So a group of about 5 or 6 of us really shepherded what KFC and Pizza Hut have become in India today. And Taco Bell was still a laptop concept
Yeah.
where I was the only employee. So the idea really was, how do I make this brand come to life here? Find the people, find the producers. If today we have a tortilla being made in India, there was no tortilla being made in India back in 2007.
True.
There were rotis and parathas,
Yeah.
but no tortillas.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get a certain flavor or a certain sauce that has to be made, it has to be made just right, because it can't be imported beyond a point.
Correct.
So to hit a price point, to hit the value target that we were trying to provide, to create a brand presence that resonated with the Indian psyche of a certain age group, that really required a great deal of marketing, supply chain. You needed cooks, you needed operations people, you needed people to find a location for you, and then to also do the unit dynamics. And it was a very, very interesting journey to bring a brand from a US concept to an aspirational Indian concept.
Sure. What happens after that? After Yumm?
Oh, after Yumm, I was there for a good 5 years, a little bit more than 5 years. So I brought Taco Bell to life in India, launched the brand, opened several stores, then became the head of Pizza Hut delivery for India as well, the Indian subcontinent.
Sure.
So that became a completely franchised enterprise.
Yeah.
The lesson I learned, which is important to understand at Yumm, is that it actually showed how you take data and research and convert that into a consumer proposition. And that is the biggest secret of success that I have seen, not just at Yumm, but at all multinationals, that they are able to take data and resonate it with what a consumer wants.
So that was expand a bit more on this, because we keep hearing this a lot. How data can be mined and impactful solutions can come up with, but it's more in theory in most cases. Majorly LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But while we have you here, please expand a bit on this.
I can give you a very precise answer.
Sure.
So when we did research on Indian consumers, we found that there are only 11 reasons why they will eat out.
Okay.
That's it.
That's very precise. 11.
11.
Okay.
There isn't a 12th reason.
Okay.
And then there were names put to each and every one of them. So one could be catch up and connect. So Bipin, how many times have you said, hey Ashok, let's catch up and connect over a cup of coffee?
Correct. Yeah.
That's one state of time when you will go and eat something outside. And at that time, you will have one coffee and you will have one sweet or one savory. That's it. You're not going to have a third piece. If you're really tired, you might have a second cup of coffee, but you're not going to order a meal.
Correct.
And it's going to be within 2:30 to 5 p.m.
Yeah.
So you know precisely when Bipin gets hungry, when he catches up and connects, how many people he's going to connect with is going to be between 2 and 4 people maximum. And you know what he's going to order. That's the data that you can mine from your cash register.
True.
By actually seeing what is being bought at certain levels of time.
You can optimize your supply chains.
Yes.
Which basically avoids revenue leaks. Nice. Okay.
And you can forecast your revenue, and you can forecast what to put into your fresh products. Sure. So if I'm going to put cheesecakes and cinnamon rolls at that time, they're going to sell. If I put them at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., they're not going to sell.
True.
A cinnamon roll will not sell at 10 p.m., it will sell at 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So that's how you use data. Similarly, if you go to Pizza Hut, who is the decision maker to go to Pizza Hut these days? Is it you and your wife, or is it your kid who wants to have pizza?
Mostly kids.
Mostly kids.
Yeah.
So then what's the child going to get? And then what are the parents going to get in addition to what the child gets? So you can actually again figure out the pattern of eating. You can also figure out the age groups. So if you see Taco Bell, KFC and Pizza Hut, they're actually designed in a manner where Taco Bell is the introduction, where generally the younger generation with a value proposition at a lower price point, they come in. People don't have a lot of money when they're teenagers, but they really want value for money. So Taco Bell creates a value menu, and that's known across the world.
Yeah.
It also is generally priced lower than a McDonald's. So that's also a very interesting thing on how you position yourself versus your competition. So then they graduate from being 16 to 18 years old, and now they're 18 to 24 years old, and that's when they graduate to KFC. So KFC provides flavor, it provides a crunch, it provides a very different experience which you share with your friends. And the food that you get at a KFC is a little bigger, it's a little bit more expensive. It's a different flavor profile
Correct.
from what a 14-year-old may want. And then you get to being 24 to 35 years old. You get married, you have a child. Now you're not just eating fried chicken for dinner, right? But you do want to go ahead and, give a treat. So if you want to treat your family, let's go to Pizza Hut. Let's have pizza for dinner. But you also want salad because you want to be healthy, right?
Yeah.
So that's where the salad bar comes in. And some people don't want that, but they want pasta.
Yeah.
So that worked till a while. For a while it worked. And then consumer expectations began to rise. So India began to progress.
Yep.
When you started pizzas in India, it was Nirula's Pizza that was in Delhi earlier. I think a lot of people who are Indian will remember Nirula's Pizza. That set the expectation and the taste profile. Then when it came to delivery, it was Pizza Hut delivery and Domino's that set the expectations that it will be there within a certain amount of time and it will be delivered hot.
20 minutes.
20 minutes, 30 minutes. So there was, in fact, we had a big discussion about this, that should we go below 30 minutes and try to beat Domino's at their game? And we said, no, we're actually going to deliver you a hot pizza. And we're going to deliver you a more flavorful pizza. So that set that expectation. And for dining in, expectations rose tremendously, that if I'm going to be paying more money, I want a better environment, I want better music, I want a better place to sit. And that's where the entire remake of Pizza Hut happened. Again, based on data from consumer expectations. And then we did a full remake of Pizza Hut and made it aspirational. So it is a science, and it means constant monitoring of what your consumer wants.
Let me get that list from you later, the 11 reasons.
Oh, sure.
I'm very interested in that one. Let's do that. Okay, so what happens post Yumm?
So I was there for a little bit more than 5 years, then moved on to a very different business. I moved to G4S, which is the world's largest security company. It has a cash business, it has a manpower business, and it has a technology business itself. So I became the managing director for South Asia for G4S.
How does this happen? I mean, do these opportunities come to you, or you keep going out looking for something which is completely different to what you have been doing? How does this work?
Well,
I'm very curious on this one.
I'll tell you the consistent thread.
Yeah.
The consistent thread throughout has been transformation.
Okay.
And today, if I am the chief transformation officer of this company, it is because I've had a consistent thread of transforming businesses. So whether it was at Mithil, where I transformed sales and then transformed the efficiency of the company and took it to a higher level, that was the first step. At Yumm, I created a business, transformed Pizza Hut into what it became today, and was part of the team that made that happen. And of course, I wasn't the only one. I wish I was.
True.
But the Yumm team was tremendous. And then getting there, you realize that you're beginning to develop a reputation for someone who can take on challenges that a normal person sometimes would shy away from. So whether it's a good thing or bad, I don't know.
Just picking up the whole concept of having industry expertise and just pushing it aside, and it's more rather than being vertical, it's more horizontal, with transformation being the base.
Yeah.
In your case. Okay, tell us about G47.
G4S was a very, very interesting place. 150,000 employees, direct employees, not contract workers, people on your payroll. G4S is known as, the biggest and the best security company in the world. In India, it had 127 offices. It was located in 86 cities. It had 3,500 managers, as I said, 150,000 employees, and was securing over 62 diplomatic missions, as well as most of the large multinationals that are in India. So all across Hyderabad, Bangalore, besides Delhi and Bombay, where you would see a G4S guard at the US Embassy, the UK Embassy, and you can imagine all the others, the level of expectation of security and compliance was tremendous. So you really have to be delivering a world-class product in an Indian environment to a group of security guards who have basically come from villages.
Yeah.
So the element of training is very, very important. So if you bring that back to Yumm as well, who are the people who man the cash registers at the back of a KFC or a Pizza Hut. These are people who've also come from humble beginnings,
Correct.
but have been trained so well that they are able to serve, your segment A customers at a level at par of their expectations. And that's what is expected of G4S guards. So it is that same, discipline of bringing together scale and being able to bring a company environment there. So the reason why I got hired there was it had been doing wonderfully for 25 years. And of course, it's now time to change, right? And so I think the leadership at G4S, the UK office, saw a wonderful track record, but then saw competition coming to India. Now that India had begun to progress and had begun to become more prosperous, there was bound to be a technological shift and there was a need for efficiency. There was a need for streamlining. And many times organizations, they get larger and larger with time, but then you start seeing that the efficiency is no longer there. So then it was time to transform G4S. The first question I got from most of my staff was, we're doing fine.
Yeah.
Why do you need to change? And that's where the element of communication comes in with it. I learned the reason, I learned how to communicate with a large group of people diversified across the country, speaking different languages with different points of view. And you realize the further you are from the corporate office, the lesser your voice reaches.
True.
Right? You don't hear what the corporate office is thinking. So then I had to embark upon literally a journey across the country and start communicating what's going well, but what's not going well. The second is something I had learned also in my previous employments, taking people with you. If you begin to explain to your leadership why you are doing something, it makes a big difference because then it convinces the other person that what you're doing is based on certain logic. So, I mean, for example, if I just decide to get rid of 10% of the workforce and not tell my human resources director why, there'll be confusion. Correct. Now, who gets asked that question? Maybe as the MD, I'll not get asked, but the human resources director would certainly be asked.
Correct.
Right? He has no answers because they've not heard anything from top management. So, making sure that your leadership team actually is with you, understands you, and can multiply your message is very important.
True.
So that's what I began to do. Started saying that yes, we are good, but we can be better. And this is how we can be better. It took a lot of convincing.
I'm sure.
Because sometimes you expect things are just as they are. So if accounts receivable is at a certain number of days, you feel all right because you have a good conversation with that customer. He pays you eventually. Even if it's 6 months late, you'll eventually get it. It's normal. But that's not really good cash management, is it? So then starting to look at your accounts receivable and saying, we need to actually tighten this up. No, but the customer will not be happy. Yeah, absolutely. But the customer has standards. I'm sure they have their accounts receivable as well. How do they manage theirs? And if theirs is tighter than yours, maybe you should also just, meet their standard. So you start doing that. Second, you start looking at accounts and your contracts that you have signed over time and saying, well, when you started this 5-year contract, you were at, say, 15%. But then inflation came at 5% per year. And today you're actually making zero money. You've deployed 200 people in this company for security, etc. But you make no money. Should I deploy these 200 somewhere else where I make more money? The obvious answer is yes. So you do that, but then what happens to that contract? That contract has to be cancelled because you no longer make money or you renegotiate. So doing that across 7,800 contracts.
Wow.
Was something which was an enormous exercise. And then we saw that there were thousands of contracts where we were either losing money or not making money. Now, when you tell your sales team, I'd like to cancel the contract that you signed 3 years ago.
I can only imagine.
The person, and you have to realize, they spent 6 months chasing this customer.
Sure.
They got the contract. They got it done. They were rewarded for it. And now you're telling them it's no longer worth it. Get rid of it. And can you imagine the sort of angst that happened there? So then explaining the why and saying, let this one go, but service others. Service ones and expand the ones that are there with you. Look for better ones or renegotiate this. And over time, and it took 6 months, 8 months, 1 year to get to that level where you can actually start convincing your sales team that this works.
Sure.
And then you have to incentivize as well. So doing this across more than 100 offices was tough. And then we found that we were overstaffed because you got more efficient.
Yeah.
So then I eliminated 5 layers of management, made that company a lot more efficient, brought revenue up and brought profitability much, much faster than revenue.
Sure.
So my percentage of profitability went up faster than my increase in revenue, which meant that I had a healthier P&L at the end of it.
Sure. Before we get into your healthcare journey, at this point, I want to ask you about your thoughts on management consulting and the McKinseys and the PwCs of the world, especially in today's context, because from whatever I'm hearing from you, it is consulting plus execution combined is what you have been delivering all this while.
Yeah.
I'm not very sure if you worked with external consultants as well during this process, but I feel today the world's changed. It has evolved a lot since we were talking like 10 years back, right? 10 or 15 years back. What do you think the relevancy and the role of management consultants today?
That's a tough question. And I know that there are now a lot of differing opinions. I think the value addition certainly exists. Everybody in leadership has always had a strategic mindset. So if you go with that logic, there was never a need for a strategic consultant. But they have always brought value, starting from strategic consulting all the way down to execution.
Yeah.
So now I think given the advent of AI and given the advent of just the ability to source information and quickly put it together in almost as good as a format as the best companies, the strategic part becomes tougher for the McKinseys and Bains to be able to justify. And I think it is now really about finding solutions, not just strategy.
Yeah.
And then actually moving into putting skin in the game and helping execute.
I think that has begun to, I think it's been pushed to them that, okay, you've come up with the strategy, you've come up with the solution, now come in, execute with us. I think it has, I've started hearing these stories now within the consulting world. But yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah, please continue.
So I think we've done that very successfully with a company here. We hired a consulting company at IHC to help with the consolidation of our supply chain. And we saw the level of detail that that consulting firm brought to us was something that was beyond our capability. So I think the way I would use a consulting firm today would be to augment the talent gaps that I have in my organization or the capability gaps that I've got in data processing, bringing out insights, and then being able to see which direction I should move in. Rather than just getting a strategic idea or creating a new organization structure, all of that can kind of now be almost done correctly without spending a 6-figure amount for a strategic firm. So I think I'm a lot more judicious in how I use it. And then I have certainly seen a lot of consulting firms now very open to the idea of having some sort of success fee built in towards the end to say that, yes, we are, putting our money where our mouth is, and, we expect to see the saving. And if you don't see the saving or you don't see this revenue change, then we can adjust accordingly.
Sure. Let's talk about healthcare, as that's what you've been up to in the last 6 years, 7 years?
Longer, since 2017.
Since 2017.
Yeah.
Okay, so almost 9 years now.
9 years now.
How did this happen? Number one. And then why healthcare? I mean, from secure fast food, I'm not going further behind. Fast food, security solutions and services, and now healthcare.
So I think by the time I was finishing my stint at G4S over several years, I had developed a reputation of being one of those people who can go into any industry, change the industry, and actually deliver results. So that, I think, amongst the executive recruiter community, they're always searching for people who are actually change agents. And I think I began to be known as a change agent amongst the circle of recruiters. And most of these positions have come to me through recruiters.
Cool.
So I did get a call from a recruiter to join Apollo Hospitals. And I became the MD of Indraprastha Apollo Hospital in Delhi, which is the flagship hospital that Apollo has there. It's a very unique public-private partnership with the Delhi government. So the chairman of the board is the chief minister of Delhi. And you have the health secretary of Delhi as a member. And then you have some members from the senior leadership of Apollo. And then myself as the MD and CEO. So to run that was a very interesting challenge. Again, the idea was that Apollo is now 20-something years old. It was about 22 years old when I had joined. There was already competition coming up. And it was not just technological, but it was also service. And again, if you look at it, patient expectations. So today, I think when you look at private hospitals, they are talking so much more about the patient journey and about comfort and about the food and about the environment.
Correct.
It's not just about clinical care. It's about a 360-degree experience. And I think that's what Apollo realized very early on in the game, that now with competition coming in and world-class medical facilities now almost becoming ubiquitous, what is the differentiator Apollo needs to create? And that differentiator had to be about the patient experience, the efficiency, and the quality of your medical care, of course. And that is the center of it all. So a lot of times you'll hear the patient is the center of all the decisions we make. Absolutely correct. But what is the patient and what does the patient expect? That goes all the way back to 10 years ago when you learn how to use data and turn it into a consumer proposition. So that's where the connectors have come throughout my career, that I was able to actually learn what I had done 10 years before at Yumm Brands about a consumer expectation and turn it into a patient expectation.
So so the consumer behavior remains the same?
Well, the behavior is different across industries. If you are going to a restaurant, you're happy to go there.
Correct.
If you're going to a hospital, you're not happy to go there.
Yes.
However, you have to understand the dynamics of decision making. So the kernel of truth you take is, how do decisions get made by patients at every step? Generally, if you're an older person, you're not the decision maker, your family is making the decision. Your son, your daughter, your spouse, your caretaker. And what do they expect or what do they want to provide to you at that time is something that is very important. And if that is not fulfilled, that will show up immediately in your consumer reviews.
True.
So you've got to be very keen to understand who is again the decision maker. So in a Pizza Hut, is your decision maker a child? Or in an Apollo hospital, is the decision maker the son of the patient? Again, you can see the parallels that happen, but you have to be aware of how you are using that data to be able to provide satisfaction to your patient when they come in.
True. And that sounds absolutely fair. Let's talk about IHC. So you joined a couple of years back?
Yep. I came here in August of 2024.
With what mandate?
Oh, it's a very interesting mandate. So here I am the Chief Transformation Officer of IHC. And IHC is a group of 38 hospitals and 76 clinics across Indonesia. And it's a very interesting venture with Pertamina as the current majority holder. And then there are two other shareholders, which is the Indonesian Investment Authority, INA, and the Swire Group, which is a Hong Kong-based private investment. So I represent Swire. I'm a Swire employee and I've been seconded into IHC. I'm on the board of directors here. The idea is really to make IHC the premier healthcare organization in Indonesia. And shortly we will be under Danantara, which again provides a huge mandate for us to actually increase our operations, improve our medical services in keeping with the national agenda. So there is an agenda, of course, of being a private healthcare provider, providing all the services that the best healthcare providers in the world can provide, but also fulfilling a national objective. Given that we have 38 hospitals, it just gives us that footprint and the scale to actually make an impact in Indonesia.
38 hospitals. And it's been 2 years, I believe, and someone who's as sharp as you will have a clear idea on this question. So what do you think, where are we in terms of the landscape of healthcare in Indonesia? As someone who's been living here for the last 10 years, I've been hearing different opinions from expats, from locals, differing from cities. I'm sure you have traveled across with 38 hospitals, must be in different provinces. Where are we today from a healthcare perspective in Indonesia?
That's a big question. I think we are certainly on an upward scale, and I see that there is a lot of focus being made by the Kemenkes, the Ministry of Health here, and the topmost people in the government to provide healthcare services for everyone in Indonesia, which is at the best levels in the world. So I think the intent is there, and it's also a question of how we get there. Of course, it's going to take time, given the fact that we started at a low base. We now have the BPJS system, and the BPJS system has allowed for access for healthcare for people that were simply shut out in the past. So, I mean, we hear the word affordability now being used. I think that has been a solution that is unique to Indonesia and is successful in Indonesia. Now, when you look at the incidence of disease, that is where we actually have to start looking at. And you focus on non-communicable diseases, NCDs as we call it. So that includes cardiac issues, orthopedic issues, hemodialysis issues, which is, diabetes and liver and kidney related issues, and certain others. Those are increasing at double digits per year, including oncology, cancer.
Wow.
So this is not just unique to Indonesia, but to almost the rest of the world as well.
So this increase is last 10 years, 15 years? What's the...
I don't have the exact data, but it is a increasing trend that non-communicable diseases are on an increasing spike. And I don't have the exact numbers for Indonesia, so I don't want to misquote.
Sure.
However, we do see a lot more incidences of dialysis requirements, of kidney damage, a lot more cardiac cases, unfortunately a lot more cancer cases as well. So we must cater to this increasing need of treatment. Now, what's happened so far? Earlier, either care was not available or care was available very far away. So if you were in Sumatra or in Aceh, it became convenient for you to go to Malaysia.
Yeah.
And it became a thing. Malaysia does offer extremely good healthcare, so it became a viable option. We were not able to provide that in Indonesia at that time. And now the race has begun for us to provide that level of care so that Indonesians don't have to exit the country. So in that regard, we actually created the Bali International Hospital in Sanur. It was launched in April of this year. In June, President Prabowo came and officially inaugurated the hospital there. And that is a bold new venture, and hopefully that is a format now for healthcare in Indonesia going forward. So Sanur's Bali International Hospital, which is run by IHC, it's in a free trade zone, and we have been able to, for the very first time, bring in foreign doctors to practice in our hospital. We have been able to bring in partnerships from Singapore, from Malaysia, to actually provide world-class care in our hospital on Indonesian soil. So today, if you get a lab report, it is as good as a lab report you would get in Singapore, because the company that does the same tests in Singapore is now doing it on our premises in Bali.
Wow.
Similarly,
it's live now.
It's live. It's working. The company that provides cancer care in hospitals in Penang is the same company that is providing medical care and cancer care in Bali. So it is possible. And for us, this is a great leap forward for medical care for Indonesians here. And my hope is that we will now be able to expand this and take it to all of our hospitals. Once regulations happen, once doctors are also available, and once we win the trust of the Indonesian people, that they don't need to travel outside of the country any longer and come here.
Yeah, there's been a lot of these travels to Malaysia. If you have money, then Singapore. It's been on a rise for a very long time. Okay, so coming back to your mandates, right? You gave a brief overview of your current mandate at IHC. Let's talk about some of the challenges which, if might not be very IHC focused, but what are some basic challenges which comes in when you are pulling in 38 individual hospitals or 38 independent businesses for that matter, if we're not just talking about IHC, and integrating them, right? I mean, there has to be a common vision, there has to be a common operating system as such, there has to be a common process structure. How does one go about this?
Well, you said it all. You have to have the common vision. You have to have a common business
model.
How do
you enforce it?
I know.
It's very easy to just put it out there, right?
Yes.
How do you go about enforcing this?
Yeah.
I mean, look, these hospitals are not new, right? I mean, they have been operating for a while. They're used to doing things a certain way. And you're not just talking about 2 or 3 out here, right? It's a pretty sizable number.
So we go from having Bali Hospital, which is 8 months old, to other hospitals which are over 100 years old. See?
Yeah.
Also, it's very interesting. This is an inorganically put together company. So we didn't start with one hospital. We actually have been put together from various other state-owned enterprises. So the entire name of this company is Pertamina Bina Medica Indonesia Healthcare Corporation. And that basically means that Pertamina actually owned only 16 out of these 38 hospitals. And the rest are subsidiaries or anak perusahans as they call it. So they have their own board of directors. They have their own set of guidelines. And so I'm working with 16 core hospitals and then the balance hospitals actually having their own administration. So it is very, very difficult. And again, it comes back to the same G4S story of communication and understanding, first of all, what are the problems on the ground, and then explaining how you can solve those problems, and then putting something that is uniform across. So what are the uniform problems first? Let's forget the solutions. Everyone can talk about a uniform thing and throw it up on top. But the uniform problem is poor data. If you are going to start a transformation program in any function, you need to know what's happening on the ground in a way that it can be measured. And that measurement right now is difficult because we have outdated IT systems. We have outdated ways of flowing data. None of it is on the same platform. So we may have somebody using Excel here, somebody else might be using Google Sheets, or the third might be using an advanced ERP system as well. So we have all three. We have SAP down to Google Sheets that people are using. And to bring it all and to bring it into a place where you can make a decision for the company is extremely difficult. So the first step has actually been to understand what the truth is on the ground. And if you don't have data, then you have to rely on experience.
Sure.
You have to rely on the experience of your team and your staff. So therefore, bringing your team and staff together to understand how this digital revolution or transformation in various functions is going to help them and impact them has to be communicated. Then the data starts flowing. So in one case, now for example, I mentioned that we talked about consolidation of our purchases of medicines and consumables.
Yeah.
Now we have thousands of SKUs, stock keeping units, that we buy from over 300 suppliers just for medicines. And these are different in each and every hospital. Amazingly, hospitals have been pretty much either using the umbrella formulary that we had used or buying on their own. But we had failed to really get the economies of scale by consolidating these negotiations with our suppliers.
Hmm.
We've done it for the very first time in this year. And that has, of course, created a lot of difficulty, a lot of storm. But before we could even get there, we spent the whole of 2024 and half of 2025 cleaning up our data.
Yeah.
What do we buy? How much do we buy? Why do we buy so much?
Yeah.
And what do we need to buy? Just 4 simple questions, but multiply that by 38 and multiply that by 5,000 SKUs.
Yeah.
You've got a big spreadsheet.
True.
That's where our consultants were very useful as well. So to be able to take their experience from different hospitals in different countries and come up with a method to create a policy and then create a framework of conveying that policy to your hospital's back with solid logic and then monitoring the use of that policy becomes a 360. And that's how you start becoming more efficient. So you start with the data, you start with convincing your teams that it is important. You create something that is based on logic. You then communicate and buy commitment from your leadership teams. And then you monitor performance.
Wow. So much to unpack here. Okay. Let's talk about the immediate wins which you're looking at in this current role.
Yeah.
Right. Let's just talk about those. Say year, 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah. So I think the first one is uniformity of bringing back-end and front-end systems to a certain level. So we have an aggressive ERP system now, and our flagship hospitals are now on SAP, and we have an aggressive plan to further that in this year. Our hospital information systems are also in dire need of change.
Sure.
Some of our hospital systems are over 20 years old, and that certainly cannot survive. And these are some of our bigger hospitals. So for that reason, I mean, I am tremendously impressed by the grit of our staff in those hospitals who have been able to deliver services with antiquated systems. So my priority is to make sure that they get world-class systems so that they are able to actually work far better, and we remove the obstacles for our staff to provide better services to our patients. So that's my first priority. The second priority is managing my costs and therefore consolidation of my purchasing across the system, which I've already talked about.
Sure.
So if I can do that in 2025 and 2026, I think that helps a great deal. There's a lot more also. So that's the top-down approach. Then there is the bottom-up approach, which I've created a transformation office here under me. We've got a VP and some team members. It's a very interesting tagline which I have created for IHC. What is transformation? Transformation is not about the corporate office coming and telling you that you now have to transform. This is how we're going to be doing things. The KPI is still owned by the business owner, by the functional lead. The KPI cannot be owned by the corporate office or the transformation office. So the tagline that I have conveyed to the company is transformation is making business as usual better.
Okay.
So if you are a functional leader, you are in charge of business as usual. If I'm a transformation leader here to help you, I'm going to be here to make your business as usual better. So I'm your partner, I'm your friend, I may have some expertise that you need. I will start a project, I will make your business as usual better, and I will exit. So transformation is not about continuous change. That is Kaizen, that is continuous improvement. Transformation is about step change.
And this sounds so non-threatening. I mean, the definition which you put across, I mean, if I am that, say, a business leader or that P&L lead in that role, and if you come to me with this, I mean, the whole messaging is very non-threatening.
Yeah.
Right? That I'm here just to make your usual business better. I think we'll use this as a thumbnail as well on once we release the podcast. That's interesting. Please.
Yeah. Transformation is making business as usual better.
Very interesting.
So I'll give you an example. In one of our flagship hospitals, we saw that registration takes a lot of time. There's a long line, there are people who are waiting, there's a lot of manual entry that's happening. So we have taken that as a project to reduce it, say, from 20 minutes to 10 minutes. And the mistakes we find along the way, the manual entry, the lack of training, the lack of automation, all of that now has begun to yield results. Once we get to the number that we want, that team exits. And that team comprises of 80% people from the hospital, 20% from the corporate office.
Wow.
So the ownership of the project continues to be at the hospital because they're the ones in pain and they're the ones who know the system. So all of the teams that I've made at the bottom-up projects that I'm doing are collaborative with the hospitals. We also ask the hospitals, what are your problems? We don't go and tell them, this is your problem. Say, tell me 10 of your worst problems. Then we choose the one that has the greatest business impact. So that business impact may be revenue, cost, or patient experience. So at another hospital, we found waiting times to get medicines after you have finished your meeting with the doctor was a lot of time. How do we bring it to a quarter of that time?
Sure.
That's an entire back-end process that has to be there. There has to be automation. But still, there are BPJS guidelines. That hospital has 75% BPJS patients. We have to work within those guidelines to make sure the right medicines have been given, they have been doubly checked, they have been audited, etc. So how do we make that system perfect but faster?
Which bucket do you choose, build or buy, when it comes to tech? Just a question which popped up in my head.
Given the status we are in, I would rather buy. I would rather rent.
Yeah.
I would rather subscribe because you have a lot of SaaS models now
Correct.
that are able to provide you that. I don't want to be very OPEX heavy, but at the same time now, if I need an ERP system, there's a certain cost associated with that. Most of it is CapEx, but then there is an OPEX to it.
Yeah.
Given our cash flow situation, given what our aspirations are, I have to allocate only a certain amount into OPEX. But I would rather buy than build at this point.
And that was very specific to IHC, but in general, in today's day and world, what do you generally suggest if someone comes asking for a suggestion without much context?
Yeah, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
It depends on the capabilities of your team and and the scale of work. I'm working at a very large scale, so I need a durable system that has been time tested and can be supported. So if I need support, I'm going to buy. If it's a smaller scale, I'll build.
That's a solid answer.
Pretty much.
We are towards the last leg of this conversation, and considering we are doing this in 2026, we have to speak about AI. So I'll break this question to two parts. First is, what do you think about AI in healthcare? And then we'll go into general AI as a thing which is going on right now. So AI in healthcare, what are your thoughts?
Tremendous and very early. So there is a lot of talk of AI in healthcare.
Yes.
There are a lot of solutions which are there. I think the business impact and the social impact is tremendous, but so far restricted to certain elements of patient care. We have seen AI in radiology really take off. So imaging there is something that is a game changer because it is able to detect lesions or issues, tuberculosis, cancer, way before it is even expected, or just way before it even begins to display symptoms. That has a huge social impact for countries like Indonesia, where there is a lot of tuberculosis and an increasing trend of cancer. So if we do regular TB checkups just on simple x-rays, using AI, you are in a place where you can actually reduce the incidence and reduce the severity of tuberculosis in the country. So AI, a lot of people, look at the technological part of it and, it makes life easier. I look at the social impact it has. and the improvement in patient care that it can give you. We've all heard the adage that prevention is better than cure. This gets me one step closer to prevention.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where I see the true value of AI coming in. The second is, I think we must talk about the obstacles to it as well.
Yeah.
The obstacle is adoption. And what I've seen so far is that since AI is quite new, it is treated with a little bit of consternation, a little bit of doubt, not necessarily because it is a doubtful technology, but because there is a learning curve associated with it.
True. I mean, I'll just give you one experience I've recently had. Right. So, went to India, got my blood work done, and typically I would just go to the doctor with that blood work. Right. So I just uploaded it in a Gemini and asked it to give me what is good, what is bad. Right. It gave me a very structured answer, and then I went to the doctor and showed him the report, and I'm telling that, listen, this. It's like, please don't give me AI talk. Let me study. I'll tell you, these things are hallucinating all the time. I had a couple of more experiences in this trip itself. My father's unwell, so we were going to specialist to specialist. And it seems like most of these doctors, it's a frowned upon kind of a thingy when it comes to AI right now. So hence I'm very curious of how not only the whole hospital or the fraternity is adopting it, but also how the doctors are collaborating, or aren't they, or they are very skeptical. Where is that?
There is an adoption issue with doctors, not necessarily threatening. I think that's not the issue, but it is the hallucination. Earlier, there were doctors who would say that, please don't consult Dr. Google before you enter my office.
Correct.
Now it's don't consult Dr. AI before you enter. Just because it is written in a very eloquent manner and it kind of makes sense, doesn't make the report correct. And I think the finesse of medicine is actually the experience of the doctor. Because there may be two factors which are not in your blood work, but they are visible in your reflexes that the doctor checks physically.
Yeah.
They may be in the color of your eyes to see if you have a liver issue, which AI will never catch. Right? And that's where the true worth and experience of a doctor comes, because he is physically examining you,
Correct.
Not just reading your reports. So I think when it comes to healthcare, it is partly science and partly an art. And that's why we always go look for what's known as a good doctor.
Yeah.
Right? Otherwise, I mean, if it was all normal, any doctor would have sufficed, right?
Yeah.
So when you're comparing AI to a doctor, you don't say, let me go to a good AI to get me a good blood report result, right?
True.
There isn't one.
True.
So, you'll just get the same output from an AI based on the data it gives you, but the experience and judgment that a human being has, not just in medicine, but in management, in any other field, I think that judgment is still with humans for the time being.
For the time being.
But I think that is something that is simply not replicable, no matter how eloquent an AI output might be just now.
Interesting.
So we leave that out of the equation, but what we do is make sure that we are using the data-driven elements of AI to improve the medical outcomes and to improve the inputs that the doctors have. So if you've got, as I said, an AI report on a radiology film, you're in a position where you can actually take that as advice and say, okay, well, look at this quadrant of this particular chest x-ray. There is a point there. Now, what that does is that the doctor may actually decide that this is not anything significant now, but he may schedule a follow-up 6 months later when it may actually show up.
Yeah.
So what that's done is point out a problem that doesn't exist yet, but is already highlighted in something that is not yet medically significant. It allows for prevention to happen if it begins to emerge.
Sure. Say I am I'm 15, 16 years old and I come to you for an advice, right? What should I pursue now, which is future proof as such, right? In terms of education, given that AI is disrupting multiple fields as we speak. What are the few suggestions you would give?
That's a very tough question. I don't think we can even predict what's going to happen next year. But I think what that provides you when you've done a master's degree is it actually gives you a method of thinking through a problem. And in the end, if you're still using your judgment based on whatever automated inputs you are getting, in the end, as a manager, your job is to judge and your job is to make a final decision. That is only based upon training. And what AI tends to do is give you 3 options and say, should I do this, this, or this?
Yeah.
And then it actually leaves it to your judgment on which way you want to carry that conversation forward. If you go down the rabbit's hole of where one of these AIs takes you, then you're just on a journey with no end, right? You can be there at your terminal for 6 hours and not reach a conclusion.
Sure. I mean, looking at your career, you are 100% AI proof. You have been adapting at a very solid pace. I personally feel that adaptability is going to be a very key attribute in very near future, because I feel every 2 years, 3 years, there's going to be a massive upskilling which will be needed across fields. That's what my reading is. Do you agree?
I agree. And I think there are a couple of factors. I think, first of all, you really can't keep up with the pace of AI.
Correct.
So trying to keep up with what's happening is a losing battle.
True.
So I think you have to then get deeper into your specialty. Become a master of something, not a jack of all trades.
Sure.
So if I don't know how to make an AI video, it's not really going to affect my life. But if I know how to actually specialize in my position, I do create some sort of depth.
Sure.
The world may change. You're absolutely right. And just like doctors do and scientists do, they constantly keep reading, they constantly keep attending events, they constantly keep writing, publishing, researching in order to remain relevant. That's how science has progressed. That's how all of the main streams of work have progressed. Continuous learning.
On that note, thank you so much, Ashok. This was really insightful. I'm sure the audience will have a thing or two to pick up from this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Vipin. It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot.